Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We got a great episode planned for you today. Don't worry about the background. Still the same show. Great episode. Today we're actually getting a chance to sit down with Stuart Cooper. If you've had the opportunity to watch any BJJ video or short film on BJJ, most likely you watched Stuart Cooper Films. Stuart shares with us his creative process as he's building these films and also all the different types of training camps that he's seen over the years. He's got some amazing stories that we get to share with you today. Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you like seeing so many different types of guests, all different types of technique breakdowns and event breakdowns, make sure you like and subscribe. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Spirit Leaf Waterdown, located at 64 Hamilton Street North in Waterdown, Ontario. If you're looking for Canada's top cannabis brand, look no further than Alex and his crew at Spirit Leaf Waterdown. There you're going to get all your CBD and THC products or whatever you need. Just remember to like the podcast on Instagram and like their Instagram page, and you're going to be able to save some money every single time you shop there. Thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the mat.
Yeah, it's different everywhere, isn't it?
It's different all over the place, all over Canada. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a topic we've been done to death. I don't think we're going to start leading. Or so, Stuart, what do you think of ivermectin?
Yeah, so we'll stay away from that. But
Yeah.
everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We are joined today by Stuart Cooper of Stuart Cooper Films. We are super excited to have him on the podcast today. Stuart, I've been a big fan of your work for a very long time, so this is awesome to actually get you on the podcast, because watching your BJJ films are just kind of like awesome videography, and I love every parts of it. So I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So I know we got in touch mostly because you actually have a fight coming up shortly on the FLA card with down in the East Coast. Do you want to kind of tell us about that, and especially about kind of some preparations that you got going on?
Yeah, I'm going up against Corey. If I pronounce the second name, is it Guittard?
Yeah,
Corey Guittard, yes.
Corey Guittard, and I know he's very good. Actually, I've just been watching his matches the past couple of days. He had a good match with Josh Hinger. I mean, he lost that one, but it's Josh Hinger, and he did really good against him. You know, he went the distance. I've seen him. He had a good match with Dan Simler, who's a Matt Serra black belt. I've been going through quite a few of his matches, so I know he's a very high-level competitor, and I think it's a good match. It would definitely look about the exact same size as well. So it looks like he likes to feel it out on the field a bit, but he can wrestle, he can take down, he can play guard. Looks like he is up to date with the leg entanglements or the new leg system. So I'm really looking forward to this one, because I've not been able to compete much at all just before COVID. I was out for a year. I was just getting back into competition again, but then my knee ripped, so I was out with knee surgery. Then I was out for just over a year, got back competing, but then COVID hit, and I'm in Canada where there's no competitions. Over in US, there's quite a few different competitions for people to still compete in. So I've been, not really been active for the last 3 years. So recently, I've been jumping in a few grappling industry tournaments just to get back into the rhythm of competing again, get used to the competition anxiety. I'm going to do a couple more in January, leading up to the FLA. It's going to be in Nova Scotia.
Yes.
Right? Yeah,
that is correct.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to coming up to that part, but I just wish it was the summer, not the winter. Driving there from Ontario in like winter, going through Quebec. I'm not sure if you've been in that area of the country yet, but it is not pretty when it's like -40 in January. Yeah, it looks freezing. I mean, Vancouver's not too. It's just wet here right now. I was actually just in Chicago a few days ago, and that is cold. That's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vancouver on the other end kind of looks like this island that I'm on right now. Maybe more in July, but like,
yeah.
What's kind of like your prep like in general when you're going like tournament versus like a super fight? Are you focusing more like on yourself? Like what's kind of like your I want to say like necessarily what your game plan is, but like what's like your prep like? Are you kind of focusing on a specific strategy, or are you just focusing on like, hey, this is what I'm gonna go in and do?
I'm definitely I'm working on a few different things. Especially recently, like I don't really want to say what, but there's a few like finishes and setups that I've been working on. I'm definitely going to be like fine tuning them over the next 4 to 6 weeks. But I'm always pretty I'm always in the gym. I usually train. at least once a day, every day, but sometimes twice a day. So I'm always very consistent with my training. But when it leads up to a tournament or like a super fight, the only thing I'll increase just like the cardio. Like I'll get, probably increased, do a couple 10K runs a week, a few like hill sprints, things like that. Maybe increase the weight training a little bit, and just be much more clean on my diet.
Yeah,
but apart from the training, it's pretty much the same.
Stuff.
Yeah. I actually don't mind it, the diet part. It's actually a good excuse for me to have a little detox.
Definitely,
all the five guys for a while.
Getting a lot of stuff out of your system. Like what weight class are you in right now, Stuart? If you don't mind me asking.
Right now, I just weighed myself before. I was 201 actually, but my weight's weird. I fluctuate between like 200 and 190.
Okay, so you're usually about 190 to 200. So Aaron's
I
actually.
would say I'm probably 194 or something. Usually.
Okay, so we're around the same size. Aaron's actually jumped up multiple weight classes. He's actually about 245 right now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not. But COVID definitely did a work on everybody, I think.
You got the COVID 10, as they call it.
COVID 10. Freshman 15, COVID 19. Not the year it was discovered. It was actually 19 pounds. That's the average amount of weight people are gaining.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Have you had a chance to kind of like, I know you guys got back from Grappling Industries in Chicago, but would you get a chance to watch any of the World Championships happening at all today or anything?
Is that McGee?
In the gi, yeah.
Yeah, no, actually, I don't watch any gi matches. It's not that I don't like. I actually enjoy rolling the gi, like the rare times that I do. But I really enjoy the no gi stuff. Like as jiu-jitsu continues to evolve and grow the next few years, I think you're really going to see them two moving apart even more and more. At my school now in Vancouver, we're like 90, we're going to change this soon, but we're like 98% no gi.
Oh, really?
As in we have one gi class a week.
So like the complete opposite of the style of training I'm used to. So like,
right. And when I first started as well, it was all gi and we had one no gi class a week, but I would always look forward to that no gi class just because it's faster, but we're actually going to start a gi program in the new year.
Yeah. So there's actually some news coming out of the pyramid. It is actually, it's in Anaheim, but so Nicholas Marigali actually, so he won his semifinal match against Victor Hugo. I think apparently initial reports are, and he's also in the absolute final as well against Felipe Pena. So this is like very initial groundbreaking stuff. Actually, I was just talking to Aaron about maybe 15 minutes before this podcast started. So apparently he flipped off Sanji and a lot of his teams. So
really,
as they say across the pond, he flipped the bird to some of Victor Hugo's coaches and teammates. And I think he's just been DQ'd from the final and from the absolute potentially as well.
Wow. I just saw briefly online that I know he got the same loop choke. He got a loop choke and Cyborg in one of the matches.
Yeah, got back to back. So none of that matters now because now he's just been disqualified.
Yeah. You're going to be at those IBJJF. You can get disqualified for like the littlest of things, just like holding the grip pant the wrong way. There's a lot of rules to follow in the IBJJF gi.
Yeah, we were kind of saying like, it's not a who's number one or like a Grappling Industries, for example. Like you can kind of get away with that kind of stuff at those
you
tournaments.
You can flip off whoever you want.
Well, I remember it was a BJJ Fanatics no-gi tournament. It was like a Grand Prix. And it was Tex Johnson, and he was competing against William Tackett, who was a purple belt at the time. But this is like only a year and a half ago. And Tex Johnson, he cracked him.
Oh, I remember that.
He hit him, and then he tried to say after, I slipped. It's like, come on. Like, I don't know about that.
He full out punched him.
The match continued. He didn't get disqualified.
No? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was surprised. I was like, oh, that's a DQ. But nope.
So like question for you, Stuart, because I mean, like you seeing it obviously behind the lens of a camera and obviously seeing the sport evolve. And as you were saying, like how the gi is kind of like been turning away, not necessarily turning away, sorry, like parting its way. From
it's going a separate direction.
Yeah, it's going a separate direction. So like, how did you kind of like start to see that? Was it just the excitement? Was it the competitors, the individuals, the personalities? What do you think?
I think it was all to do with like Danaher and his guys and his systems, the leg locks, the rise of leg lock systems coming into play and having such an impact on the no-gi that you're not really able to do a lot of the leg entanglements in the gi. So Yeah, I really think. Plus, all the Danaher guys are mostly compete no-gi, and a lot of them are very good at promoting themselves online. You know, quite outspoken, like Gordon Ryan and Gary Tonin. These people are very big, like characters. Craig Jones, like it seems like the bigger personalities, especially on social media, mostly in the no-gi world. I would say anyway. Yeah.
Do you kind of see, you know, I guess Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and like no-gi kind of going in the direction of like, let's say it's like the UFC or like Who's Number One, where you're having like, you know, like super fights and like there's promos by guys and
that would
like
be
personalities.
Kind of like awesome. Imagine if you had like basically like the UFC, you had the weight divisions and you had rankings, and it was all just no-gi matchups.
Yeah.
And they're like 15-minute round, like just one round, 15 minutes, but judged in three 5-minute round periods. You know,
so
there's
it's like
a lot of potential.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like one direction it's going. And then there's some like traditionalists, I guess you could say. It's like kind of like they like the IBJJF route, where it's like, you know, it's formal martial art tournament. I mean, I think personally, like both are good for the sport in their own ways. Like I think it's good for guys and girls to go to, like, let's say the IBJJF events, you know, make a name for themselves, and then they can get to like those flow grappling, Who's Number One, those super fights where, you know, potentially, you know, that's where they take things to the next level. I don't know what your thought is on that, but this is kind of me like thinking out loud with that whole process.
Yeah, it's cool. There's so many different rule sets you can compete in as well. You know, you've got the Polaris rule set back in England, which I really like. That's my favorite one. The Who's Number One's good. The Fight to Win. You've got the EBI rule set, which is good for entertainment, but if I was to compete in that, it's not necessarily the best guy that wins in the EBI format, just because of the overtime, especially submission underground, because the regulation is only 5 minutes, and 5 minutes for two world-class black belts is not really enough time to work.
It's not enough time.
You could really play to the rules and stall out for the first 5 minutes, but you're amazing at back escapes and finishing with a rear naked choke in the overtime. But it's great. I love watching it, you know. But it's cool, all these different rule sets. You got the no time limit. I think no submission only, no time limit, really, that's when you find out who's the best grappler, you know.
Yeah, is that your favorite rule set if you have to pick
probably, like, I mean, I would probably, I don't think I would want to do another no time limit again. I would do it, but actually, I've done
we need a time
before.
limit.
That's actually when I changed my style of jiu-jitsu. I did my very first no-gi submission only, no time limit. It was quite a few years ago in England, and my first match went 45 minutes. Whew. And that's when I realized my game was so positional. It was just like sweep, pass guard, mount, go for an arm triangle. If I don't get an arm triangle, stay in mount until the time's up, which worked at all these tournaments. But then it was no time limit. I couldn't, this guy was quite much bigger than me. So I was just relying on upper body submissions, and I just couldn't get them. So it was like 45 minutes before he got tired, and I got him in a banana split. But I walked away from that thinking, right, I need way more attacks, way more finishes, you know, like upper body and lower body, just mix it up more. So that's when I started working on my submission game.
Yeah, I think another good rule set obviously is the ADCC rule set.
Yeah.
They have a really good format for, like, obviously finding out true grappling and really finding the best out of the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very wrestling heavy as well, ADCC, but it's quite hard to score points. I think even if you get a sweep or get a takedown, you have to pin their shoulders to the mat. I'm really not sure. I
believe so. I don't know, but I don't know the whole rules.
Yeah, but quite often you can see some ADCC matches, and it looks like one guy's got a bunch of points. It goes to the end, it's still 0-0.
Yeah.
It looks like I think the simpler the rule set, the better, honestly. Like, a lot of people complain about the IBJJF rule set is probably something I'm the most familiar with. And I would say, like, this is me who's done 4 or 5 referee courses and reffed like probably 100 plus IBJJF style rule tournaments. And like, even then there's situations where I'm just like, I honestly don't know what to call that, because there can just be some strange situation that comes up and it could decide a match. And like, I don't want to be the guy who's like gringoing somebody, as some people are saying, but like, it's very difficult, like, just, you know, trying to figure out like what rule set is best. But I think honestly, the simpler the better. Like, hey, a sweep is a sweep. I come on top or I take you down. Like, that's worth something. Or why don't you just submit the guy? I think it makes things much easier.
I think one thing IBJJF definitely, I'm glad they allowed heel hooks now. So there's no DQ for like reaping, but I don't understand for the life of me how you don't get points for a body triangle on the back. You have to get the hooks and then switch to the body triangle still, correct? If you just go to the body, let's say I get a back tape, but I go to the body triangle, there's no points. You have to have hooks first.
Still not points.
But like, it's literally the best control.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. They're gonna have to change that at some point.
I think like anything, eventually the rules will have to evolve, especially if they start to see as the sports start to kind of change more than anything. I think it has to happen. I think they'll have to evolve it to some extent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you kind of like start really kind of like your journey, whether it's in jiu-jitsu, and like, how did it even get in with you behind the lens? Like kind of putting that out there for the world to see, especially all these different high level films.
I started, I was actually training jiu-jitsu, and I started competing a lot of local tournaments in England all the way up to blue belt. And I was doing really well just in the local tournaments, getting a lot of gold medals. And that's when I kind of made the decision. Like, I think I was only 22 at the time. I thought I'm good enough to go quite far in this, like as a competitor and eventually like instructing, like teaching. But then I dislocated my left arm in a seminar one day. I think I took someone's back. They tried to they tripoded forwards, tried to shake me off the front. I went to post my hand and my arm snapped back the opposite way.
Lovely.
So I was out for a year. And that's when I did go to university to study like media, because I had an interest in filmmaking. At school, the only thing I was good at was art and sport. You know, anything creative or sporty, anything academic, you know, with numbers and, you know, I'm not good at. But yeah, that's when I dislocated my arm. That's when I picked up a video camera and just started filming training and just doing little highlights of my, you know, my teammates competing at the local tournaments, little highlights of just people rolling into the academy. And then one of the local tournaments actually hired me. They paid me £300 to film one of the tournaments. And that was like a lot of money for me back then. You know, this is like 2010, I think. And it was a guy called Jason Tan, who has the MMA Academy in Liverpool. So he was very well connected. He competed in the UFC a couple of times, but he knows everybody in UK. And he was organizing a seminar with Ryan Hall and Gunnar Nelson. And he also put me in contact with Braulio Estima. So he liked the videos I was doing. Like he's like, hey, Stu, I love your highlights, but have you thought about doing something more, like filming a seminar, doing interviews and stuff? And I'm like, I've never done it before. I'll be up for trying it. And it was actually Jason Tan who really encouraged me to start making the short films.
That's awesome, because I think the very first one I think I discovered, it might have been like that, or like early 2010, 11, 12 era, was that Ryan Hall seminar that was being, because that was one guy that I was watching a lot of when he was coming up as like a brown belt and a black belt. And I think that was the first, like one of the first like Stuart Cooper films that I've watched actually, which was really cool. Now you mentioned that story.
Yeah, and the one I made after that. So I think that was the very first one, actually. And the one after that was the one with Gunnar Nelson. And people really liked that one because he had a very different kind of mindset, you know. So I called that one a calm mind.
Straight out of Iceland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, from there, yes, that's when he put me in contact with Braulio Estima. Met Braulio. Braulio was training for ADCC 2011. He was training for the super fight with Jacare, and Jason reached out to Braulio and said, would you be interested in, my friend really can make some cool videos, is it all right if he comes and films you? And just think, at this time, like this is the lead up to 2011, there was no flow grappling. There's Budo videos, but Budo videos was doing the live stream.
Yeah.
And I was really inspired by the reason I got into jiu-jitsu was watching UFC. So I loved watching UFC countdowns and the build up, watching this fighter prepare and this fighter prepare. So I was very inspired by that. And then, that's when I said to Brad, hey, how about I like film your preparation? We make it into like a 4-part series. It was just a shame Jacare was all the way in Brazil, so I couldn't really show his side. But I made this 4-part series of Braulio training for ADCC called The Road to ADCC. And it's not online anymore because at the time I just used, you know, really popular music like Arcade Fire. And so it got taken down. So that's why a lot of, I've had a lot of copyright issues on my channel. It's amazing my channel still exists, actually. But I've actually...
Google does not like you right now.
No. So I've had to re-edit a lot of my films. I've got people I've actually noticed I'm re-uploading a lot of content, but it's just, I've just swapped the music and tidied up the editing a little bit better as well.
Mm-hmm. Like, do you still have like all of your old like films on file still? Like, you still able to do all that stuff?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I've lost quite a bit of footage. I've got hard drives and stuff all over the place.
That's good.
You know, so yeah, and I've lost some footage over the years, but I've got several hard drives that just failed on me, and I can't even remember what's on them. There's probably some great stuff on them. I know I have like a 4-hour interview with Dean Lister on one of my hard drives that I dropped on the floor. I'm going to retrieve that at some point. But it was a great one because I just got Dean. It was in my house in Thailand when I was living there. And I just sat him down, bought him a bunch of beers, and he just starts blizzing down the beer and just goes off on his whole life story for like 4 hours. And I remember it being an epic interview because we knew each other quite well by that point. We're relaxed, we're having a couple of beers, we're just having a conversation. And I got some gold out of him, but fuck, I dropped the hard drive on the floor. And that happens, you know.
It's one you wish you have that's functional right now.
Yeah, same thing happened with Josh Hinger, actually. I was filming with him in Singapore. Everything I filmed in Singapore, like, for whatever reason, the card and the camera just got corrupted. And I lost everything. But fortunately, I was on my way back to Thailand, and Josh was in Thailand, so we just did it again. You know?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Who's somebody that like you've never had an interview or sat down with that you're like, oh man, like that's one person, one male or female, that's somebody I want to sit down with?
Good question. No, someone I've always wanted to do something with is Kit Dale. We just never got round to doing it, just because he's such a character. I really like his sense of humor, and he's got damn good jiu-jitsu as well. And he's competed at a very high level. Who else? Yeah, a lot of
not Aaron Gall or Mike Ryers. No. Definitely not.
Yeah, there's quite a few people I'd like to do some stuff with. On the top of my list is like Dante Leon, the Rotolo twins. You know, I think they would make some really. I'd really like to do some of the Rotolo twins. I find those two fascinating. Roberto Jimenez as well. That would be a cool one. Yeah, but I think most of the Yuri Simos, I never got to do anything with him, and we tried to arrange that a bunch of times.
Just sometimes things just didn't line up, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So when you were in Thailand, because you were just in Thailand like less than 2 years ago, right?
I left Thailand I think it was September 2019, right at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, so just before
everything. Yeah.
So take us through that process, because you've been in the UK, you're now in Vancouver. Like, how'd you go from United Kingdom, Liverpool, to Thailand, to Singapore, to world traveler, like doing jiu-jitsu? So like somebody's listening to us, they're like, hey, like I want to travel and train. Like, how did Stuart Cooper do it?
So when I was 25, that's when I actually left England. Sorry, I've got a rescue cat in front of my laptop.
You got a rescue? What's going on?
There she is. I've got 2 rescue cats from Thailand when I lived there, and she has a fascination with my laptop. She likes to press the keys and run off.
Oh, nice.
She's clever. But yeah, when I was 25, that's when I first left, and it was actually the videos, the ones I was just telling you about with Gunnar Nelson, Ryan Hall, I did one with Jeff Monson, and I think I just did the ADCC 2011 highlight. I wanted to get out of England. You know, I come from a very small town called Preston, and there's really nothing there. It's like the worst weather. It's not very picturesque. There's no like nice walks around or anything. You've got like a cinema and a gym. It's just not I lived there for 25 years of my life. So those videos started going viral, and I reached out to a guy called Dennis Ash, who owned Connection Rio in Brazil. It's like a hostel for jiu-jitsu athletes. And I didn't realize how much of a reach my videos had actually got even back then. I sent him an email saying, hey, I'd love to come out to Brazil for several months and train and make videos. So here's some examples of my work. So I sent him the links to the videos I already made. Said, would you be interested in giving me free accommodation, free training? And in return, I'll like make some videos on like all the best guys in Rio de Janeiro and like put your company logo on the front of the video. And he got back to me in 5 minutes. He said, when do you want to come? So that was my first escape out of England right away. I think I was on the plane in like a month or something, just out to Brazil. And then that's where he put me in contact with Rafael dos Anjos, who was on the UFC prelims at the time, Kira Gracie, Husam Harris before he was banned from MMA. So I made some cool videos out there, and they got even more popular because at this time, jiu-jitsu was growing, Facebook was getting more popular, YouTube was growing, Instagram wasn't even around back then. And through there, I just met some contacts. I met a guy called Patrick Vickers, who was the promoter of Cage Warriors. And when I left Brazil, he gave me a job with Cage Warriors as the videographer. And we started traveling, doing events all around Europe, like Jordan, Lebanon, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. So I was making a lot of different contacts there. And then I wasn't getting paid much for Cage Warriors. So I didn't really, it was cool but the time I was with him, but I had the idea to like go to Thailand. So I thought I'd reach out to Tiger Muay Thai and offer them the same deal I offered Dennis Ash in Rio de Janeiro. So I sent them an email saying, hey, here's some examples of my work. I'd love some free training, accommodation, you know, and I'll come out there and be your video intern. And like right away, you know, same thing happened. So yeah, I was out in Thailand, free accommodation, free training, even got a free meal plan as well. And eventually, I think it was even after just a couple of months, they started paying me and actually had a job in Thailand as the videographer. Then I ended up saving up some money, bouncing all around the US because I always wanted to do like have a little tour around the US and film with some of the best guys there. So for quite a few years, I had my bases in Thailand, but I would go over to America and travel around America, Brazil, and I'm gonna have to write. I've actually written it down, the order of countries and the order of effort. So much has happened the last 10 years. I'm 36 now, and I left England when I was 25. So the last 11 years has been a pretty wild ride, actually. I really have to take a step back and think about everything that's happened, you know?
Yeah, you have to kind of like think back and like write yourself a book, like all
the
different
stories it really could.
Had.
And it's not like the book would be really interesting. It wouldn't, because you know, I learned a lot about myself as well. It wasn't all like, it's funny, people follow you on social media and you only posted good things on social media usually, like me in Brazil, you know, on the top of Pedro de Gavia or the Christ statue and on the beach in Thailand. And every time I go back to England, people are like, man, I'm so jealous of your lifestyle. I did have the best lifestyle, but that whole traveling took a turn. Like there was some dark times during that. You know, so yeah, I don't even know how my life, there's some situations I got in, but yeah, all the traveling, eventually that led to like a drug dependent, you know, a drug addiction that I managed to get over using psychedelics. And yeah, it's just been like a roller coaster up and down.
Big roll. Have you ever tried anything like CBD related, maybe from one of our sponsors, the Spirit Leaf Water Down? Is that
no,
correct,
but I'd love to. It sounds great.
Located at 64 Hamilton Street North in Waterdown, Ontario. They have all your CBD needs, your C3PO, R2D2 needs. I gotta slip an ad in here somewhere. So yeah,
I'm a big fan of CBD though. Yeah, it sounds good stuff. It's great for people that do jiu-jitsu. You know, all the inflammation and like
absolutely,
all the joint pain that we get.
Well, if you're ever in the greater Toronto area, if you're ever in, I will take you to Spirit Leaf Waterdown. You can meet Alex and his crew. You can get all the stuff that you need. Aaron, what's the location for all of our listeners?
64 Hamilton Street North in Waterdown, Ontario.
That's right. I got an ad read in.
So Stuart, like obviously like all these different places that you've trained at and obviously filmed this footage, like what was kind of like some of the like most intense training spots that you've been, where the athletes are just animals, like where it seems to like run the worst, like the toughest program?
I would say when I was in Miami with Cyborg, this was quite a few years ago now, before all the controversy that surrounds him right now.
Yeah, a lot of controversy with him.
A lot of controversy there.
Yeah. My experience with Cyborg has always been very positive. He flew him out to Miami quite a few years ago. I spent a month there. He was training for the ADCC 2015 super fight with Galvao. Okay. I didn't see Galvao's training. I was just there filming Cyborg, and I was watching him roll with Braulio Estima, Joao Gabriel Rocha, Rodolfo Vieira. Like, I saw how hard those guys were like training for a whole month. And I was actually with Rodolfo, Leandro Lowe, and Buchecha Ibiza like the month before, and I saw how hard Rodolfo was pushing himself. That's where I really saw the difference. What makes a world champion, you know, because I watched Rodolfo push himself so hard that he would just break down in tears, you know, crying. I think just from exhaustion, you know, and one of those, like, what do you call those air bikes or something?
Airdyne bikes.
Yeah, yeah, and I was amazed by just the commitment to training and how hard they would push themselves there. And I remember with that super fight coming up thinking, oh, Cyborg's going to win this. But I didn't see Galvao's preparation. And Cyborg lost.
He could have been doing way worse things to himself to get ready.
But I've heard stories now, because Cyborg ended up losing that match. And then I've actually heard about Galvao's training and the lead up to these ADCC events and how hard he pushes himself. And it's like that much more than everybody else. And then I actually witnessed it myself in 2019. I went to Atos about a month out from ADCC. Man, that guy is a monster. Like, I think if anyone's going to give Gordon Ryan problems, it's going to be Galvao. Just with he knows the rule set. He's got really good wrestling. And I think Gordon's going to play guard. It all depends if Gordon can like get a submission off his back or get a sweep and get on top. But Galvao really pushes himself like to another level. You know,
is that really just
possessed?
Is that just the big secret? Is it just like, hey, you just got to push yourself to like limits that people aren't just willing to put themselves through? Or is it just like technical, or somebody's just born that? Is it like what is the secret that you've seen?
I think you've seen all these top level guys. Yeah, okay. Definitely a little bit of talent helps for sure, always helps. But I think it's hard work more than anything. And what I've noticed, I always used to wonder, what is it that these guys right at the top, what are they doing different? And I think a lot of times, like, how much are you willing to sacrifice in your, like, not only your personal life, like not going out the weekend having a beer with your friends, you know, like it's how much of your body are you willing to sacrifice as well? A lot of these world champions, like look at Kamaru Usman, UFC, he has no cartilage in his knees. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't remember seeing Cyborg actually, it was like a year ago or something, or maybe a year and a half. He got knee barred by Victor Hugo and his leg went the opposite way. I swear that guy was back competing like 6 weeks later, running around on like Kasai Pro. I'm like, because I had knee surgery. I was out for a year. I don't understand how some of these athletes keep going with some of the injuries they get, but I think a lot of them just bite down and push through and use a lot of Jamba Juice as well. So
it's a lot of acai, I think.
It's gotta be. I want some because my injuries don't fucking heal that fast.
Well, at least somebody said it.
I'd slide that one in there.
I mean, like Mike and I are in the health and fitness industry, like by our trades, and we're like, how is it? No, body parts aren't supposed to move that way. Like, you had to take time to heal and do this. It's like,
did you see? I think it was Joao Miao or Paulo Miao recently. He was in hospital. I think he's getting a knee reconstruction. Yeah, and there was a video on his Insta story of the doctor moving his leg around. There's like nothing in there.
Oh, no, there's like no ligaments in there. It's disgusting. Like it's basically he's taking his tibia and then just pulling it down where his ACL should be, and there's no ACL there. It's like just taking like a piece of wire and moving it up and down, like, and that's just like that's your shin that he's moving around because there's no ligaments attaching it to anything.
Yeah. So hopefully those guys have made enough money that, you know, they can afford all the surgeries and stem cells they need to have a good quality of life in the next half of the life. Because I think a lot of people, they don't realize you're pushing through, you're getting all these injuries, but you really this is going to end like quite early, you know, like most athletes stop competing before the 40. In jiu-jitsu, you can go a little bit longer, but you really have to think, recently I had my knee surgery. I was in a dilemma. Do I take the meniscus out, get it snipped, take it out and be back in a month so I can compete? Or do I stitch it and I'll take it over a year before I'm back competing? And I was so close to getting it like just snipped so I could do the ADCC trials. But the doctor said, if you do that, we're going to take 80% of your meniscus out. You'll be back competing pretty quick, but there's no cushion in your knee. And you're probably looking at a knee replacement in like 5 years time. So I decided, like, you know, I don't just think about competing now, I think about the next half of my life. So I don't want to be in a wheelchair or on a walking stick, you know, when I'm 50. I want to be able to still walk around. So I made the decision to get it stitched, and I had to sit out for a year. But
made a decision that you'd like to walk when you're like 60 and not have like a double knee replacement.
Yeah, but to be like an ADCC champion, I think you can't think like that.
No,
yeah,
you gotta.
The mindset has to be
body
completely
parts.
different.
Yeah.
It's just it's a different level, and like you said, it's that different level. And like you look at the Turo brothers, like they've been bred that way since they were like 12, 13, maybe, when they started competing.
They've been competing since they were like 5.
That's what I'm saying, right?
I was down at Autos in 2014, and I think the Rutulos must have been 9 or 10 years old, and they were like, people were already talking about like these kids of the future.
I remember about the same time, actually. I remember seeing them, and they were little kids, they're little boys, you know. Look at them now. I
think they were like yellow belts at the time, and like they're like these kids are the future. Like you need to watch, keep an eye out for them.
One thing I wonder about them, be interesting to see, like, will their bodies burn out by the time they're like 30, you know? You usually reach your prime like 33, 35. But they've started competing at a world-class level, like so young, you know, like, it'd be interesting to see if the joints and the bodies can take it for that long.
Yeah, I think I don't think any of them have like had any issues lately within the last. Well, nothing.
No, I don't think so.
Right?
Yeah. Most of my injuries came as soon as I turned 33.
That's generally what happens.
So all of a sudden, it's like everything just started. Just at Grappling Industries last weekend, I went for this submission. I ended up like busting a rib. Like, these things never used to happen. There's always something. It's like I get over one thing and then it's something else.
You gotta blame Grappling Industries for that. See, if you're competing at the IGGF, hey, maybe it wouldn't have happened. I don't know.
Yeah.
We kind of make fun of Grappling Industries like a little bit up here, but because they came one tournament and it was just like they started introducing the EBI rules this one year, and then basically all these people ended up getting hurt because they didn't understand rule sets, and other people did understand it, and it was a fucking gong show. And it's like, oh well, you want to go do that tournament, go for it. Now it's kind of cleaned itself up every time they come up here, but the first time they ran that EBI rule set, it was a shit show.
Really? I didn't realize they actually did EBI rules for a time.
It was just like a 1-year thing. It happened once, and then after that happened, we have what they call the Ontario Jiu Jitsu Association. They were like, nope, never again. We're not running this rule set. And
I don't know. Like, kind of back to the rule set thing. I think I've reffed a lot of EBI rule sets. It just, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the rule set, just for the main reason of like what you're saying. I've reffed a lot of matches where I thought the less skilled person probably won, in my opinion. Just for like some guy or girl can just be absolutely smashed for 5 minutes. Yeah. And like their guard's getting passed repeatedly. They're mounted, like they're almost getting like choked, arm locked. And then like EBI, or they escape the back like 3 seconds.
That actually happened. One of my brown belts who's like right there ready for his black. He went to competing here in Vancouver recently. His name's Christoph Van Dyke. He's actually a judo Olympian. And he was just like, he's a monster. And it got to the final and he's just completely dominating this guy. But the guy was just doing this, 5 minutes, just survived by the skin of his teeth. It goes to overtime, he escaped quicker and starts running around.
He opens up the gi like he won world. Yeah, and then flips off Sanjay in the corner like Marigali. Fuck you.
So when did you guys start running tournaments back in Vancouver? Sorry.
I think they started back in the summer. There was a few popping up in the summer. They tried to do it back last Christmas, but they just kept getting cancelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, we had quite a few decent ones. We had a good outdoor one as well, actually. We got some high-level people here in Vancouver now. There's a guy called Matt Kwan. Are you familiar with him? He's out in Coquitlam. He's probably about 165 or something. But he's good. He's like really good. He should be on these Who's Number One events. Okay. He's very high level. Ben Dyson's out here as well in Vancouver. He's a friend of mine. He won the ADCC trials in 2017. There's a guy called Brian Giorgio, a guy called Mike Crisp, and then my friend Christoph Van Dyke. So we've got some very high level grapplers in Vancouver now. The jiu-jitsu is growing.
Yeah, it's definitely is. There's a lot of people moving to the West Coast out there as well. I know there's some people have moved from the East Coast. I think Lucas Wilhands moved out there. He was
I was
in
actually
Montreal.
he's a name I missed out. Lucas Whelan, he's very good as well. Yeah, he's like good gi and no gi.
Yeah,
really good.
I
was training with him for quite a while actually. Me and him were
okay.
I've not seen him in a while, but I'll have to hit him back up to do some training. He had a
he's
really good match with.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
he's actually somebody I've competed against a couple times.
Okay, right. Yeah, I was going to say he had 2 really good matches with Matt Kwan, who I was just talking about, like really good. I think they're on YouTube.
And you're currently working out of the Diaz Combat.
Yes, Diaz Combat Sports in Chinatown, Vancouver. Yeah.
Okay.
So we when I first moved out here, the gym was on Gore Avenue, just a few blocks away. It was in a little bit of a rundown area. But Ryan Diaz, the owner, he showed me the plans for the new gym. Because I've been quite spoiled where I've been teaching. I was teaching at Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand, this huge, like it's the biggest MMA gym in the world. It has to be. Evolve MMA in Singapore, which is just pristine and spotless. They have like 5 locations, and it's almost like an anytime fitness for martial arts. Evolve MMA. So I've been fortunate to teach at the 2 biggest MMA gyms in the world, and then when I came over to Vancouver, it's like a normal sized gym, but Ryan said, "Hey, we're getting this world-class facility." And I saw the plans, but all right, I'm in, and then, it's the gym's open now, and it's a really impressive building. We're actually opening up gym number 2 across the road by February, and that's going to be like yoga, like strictly yoga.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm looking forward to, because that's what my body needs now. It's not really, I'm doing less and less weights these days and doing more like stretching and I'm going to start getting into Pilates as well, because again I want to be able to do this when I'm like 60, 70. If I keep hammering my body with jiu-jitsu and weightlifting, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you know what, when it comes, especially as speaking from a 30-year, I'm 39 now, but like
you're
introducing
40, you're 40 next year.
We don't need to talk about that.
You're a man. You're 40. I'm a man. I'm 40.
But like going into strength training, you don't have to, again, it's not about hitting PRs every day at this age anymore. It's more about, okay, being strong enough so you don't get hurt, but one thing, but then obviously focusing on mobility, and Pilates is a great program. Like yoga, I'm not into yoga. That's me personally, but Pilates, I was always into.
I feel like Pilates would probably be better suited to jiu-jitsu.
100%.
It's all about the spine, isn't it?
Spine correction, mobility, obviously flexibility, and I found it much better where, like, I always looked at like a yoga class. You go to a yoga class and then you zen out and you're kind of done for the day, right? And it's like, okay, I'm fucking going home. That's it, right? Where you could do a Pilates class and it's like a legit workout, and then you can kind of like be energized to do something else. That's me personally, though, right?
Really, I think Pilates really opens the body up more. Jiu-jitsu, we're always like hugging forwards and clinching, and you can end up getting quite a rounded spine and your shoulders pulled forward. So Pilates will get everything corrected and bring it all back.
Yeah, exactly. Correct that shitty posture.
Yeah, I think a lot of jiu-jitsu guys have
shitty jiu-jitsu like posture where you're like this. Your neck is connected to your ears, but no, I actually really like Pilates. I've done it as well. Me and Aaron have done it at the gym that we do not speak of, that we don't mention on this podcast, that me and Aaron frequent. It's a very good, like, I like it basically for what you guys mentioned, especially like core activation as well, because just like getting your abdominals to fire just fixes so many issues that you can potentially have, jiu-jitsu related or not.
So like, kind of obviously with all the different places you've worked at, like now that you've kind of like, I'm assuming you've developed an amazing structure to kind of like fit your classes. Like, what's kind of like your kind of like base when you kind of like, I'm going to structure my classes? How do you build that around that?
I try and stick with a theme, for like a month or something, like just stick to like side control and mount escapes for a month, and just focus on that. And then like the next month, maybe just do, half guard sweeps or butterfly sweeps. So this month, like what we're doing, just focusing on butterfly guard, different sweeps from the back and different setups. So I really like I've been studying. My game's changed so much over the last few years from just studying Gordon Ryan and John Danaher and seeing what those guys do, because those guys are getting their techniques to work against the best guys in the world. And And I find learning the John Danaher, so like learning like the systems or the subsystems, has really helped me. You know, I got his Back Attack DVD a couple of years ago now, and I was learning in Thailand. I would like watch a little bit in the morning, and I go to class. I would teach, but whatever I saw in the morning, I would try that little setup and try and get it onto working like a blue belt or something. And maybe I'd be missing something. The next morning, I'd watch a little bit more. Oh, I was missing this detail. And then, I just pick like one thing to focus on for a couple of months until I'm getting it to work on everybody. And once I get it to work on blue belts, purple belts, brown and black, then I feel like I'm good enough to actually teach it.
Is that so? Danaher and like Gordon Reiner, some of the, like the big influences on
yeah, and Lachlan Giles as well. I really like his approach and his style of teaching.
Yeah, and that's another YouTube channel. That's a big one that I
his is great.
The last couple of years. He's been tremendous, and he was somebody I was following actually, because I don't think a lot of people knew about him until like 80.
He's been around a long time, actually. Yeah,
he's been around a long time. But that was a channel I watched a little before. I'm like, oh, I really like this guy's like teaching and his technique.
Yeah,
and like stuff. I like to steal my jiu-jitsu literally from everywhere. I don't make anything up. Everything's stolen. I'm the most plagiarized jiu-jitsu I think ever. I steal everything from everyone. But like, he's somebody I was watching before his ADCC run, and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. I like to see how he does that ADCC. Meanwhile, like, he does the open weight and he's just heel hooking like world champion after world champion, like back and forth. It was really impressive.
Yeah, that was really cool what he did. He was actually in ADCC 2015, and so was Craig Jones. And I was there filming, but I don't even remember him being there. And I actually have footage of them. I have I've got a little bit of the match of Craig Jones versus Homolo Bahal in the first round of the 88 kilograms, and Homolo just kind of run through Craig. But then 2 years later, Craig's a different animal. He came in 2 years later, I think around that time, 2015. He noticed what the Danaher guys were doing with inside position and elevating the hips and bringing them into the saddle position. And he came back in 2017 and had different entries. Because the inside heel hook's always been there. But what Craig did different was like he was catching people off guard, like Leandro Lowe of the entries. And then 2019, we thought we'd seen it all the entries from inside position. But Lachlan Giles comes in from outside position from De La Riva, and no one saw that coming.
Nope.
But this is the good and bad thing about social media. Like, imagine if Lachlan Giles went into ADCC that day and got that the inside heel hook from 50-50 from the setup of outside De La Riva. If that wasn't shared on Instagram like the same day all over the internet, he would be winning a lot of competitions with that same setup. But because it gets released the same day, it goes viral, and people do breakdowns of that the next day, and people would know it like immediately.
Ah, shit! Now everybody's stealing my stuff.
Yeah.
I hope nobody from Stuart Cooper Films is filming this right now.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, when you look at that, I mean, that's putting the sport into a lot more eyeballs, right? So you're gonna have to evolve your game, obviously evolve the techniques on how you get to these positions. Like, I don't look at it as a negative. I just look at it as like it's a positive where there's more eyeballs, and now people have to get better.
I think people just have to be creative with the different setups. That's something I've been thinking a lot about recently, is like, how do I get to like these submissions, in a way that they don't see coming, make them think one thing but do something else. That's what Braulio Estima was really good at. Back in 2009, he was pulling off the reverse triangle. He was letting people think they were passing his guard. But as soon as they think they're just getting side control, he'd whip that left leg over the other side of the head and pull him into a reverse triangle like he did with Galvao. I think he got a couple that day. He got Zhangji in one as well. But Zhangji's pec ripped. And then that was the year he came in with the Estima lock as well, which no one had seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So he was ahead of his time, Braulio.
Braulio's, I don't think he gets talked about as much as like one of like the all-time greats. Honestly.
Yeah, he should be. I don't know why.
Gi and no-gi jiu-jitsu, because he's a lot. Like before Galvao like got a double gold medal, like, hey, Braulio Estima did the same thing in 2009 and submitted Galvao.
Yep.
And in 2011, Galvao did the same thing, got double gold, and then rematched Braulio in the super fight.
Yeah, I think Braulio should definitely be. They're doing like the inductees to the Hall of Fame of ADCC. Braulio should definitely be on there because that year he submitted Marcelo Garcia.
Yep.
Yeah, he beat Jean Ribeiro.
Yep.
Yeah,
Galvao.
submitted Galvao. There's some names. Lovato Jr. There's a lot of good people he submitted.
You're just listing off everybody else that he submitted, and all of them are in the Hall of Fame right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that happen? How is he not in the Hall of Fame? I don't understand.
I think they're just doing it like I've noticed they're just spacing it out. So I know Marcelo Garcia just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'm sure.
I think
he'll probably just space it out. All right, he's got to. Yeah,
he's got to.
Crime if he didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. He's that good.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for this year's ADCC because it's going to be probably the biggest one that they've ever done.
I've actually bought myself tickets. I mean, I feel like I've done enough work for ADCC to get a free one, but
apparently not.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, it's different now. Like I remember going to ADCC 2011. I didn't have permission to be there. I just jumped over the freaking barrier and just started filming and pretended like I was supposed to be there. 2013, the same thing happened. I just like pretended that I was supposed to be there and then just blended in and cut all the footage. 2015, I think that's when they finally gave up and like, all right, let's just let him in, you know.
Oh, really?
And Budo Videos actually allowed me to film that year. 2017, I didn't actually film. I was in Singapore, but 2019 I was invited to film. But there's just so much. It's just different now. Like 2013 was no audience. There wasn't really much security. A bunch of guys,
just a bunch of jiu-jitsu guys at a tournament, really, right?
Yeah.
It was just and now look at 2019.
It was a great event as well, but now like 2019, they've got like security everywhere. You've got cameras and video cameras everywhere. You've got flow grappling. There's a lot of people involved now. You know, because there's more money coming into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when you look at like a company like Flow, they just kind of like took that next step. That like Budo was always doing the live events, which is great.
Yeah,
and then Flow just kind of took it that next level, and especially now introducing the different series and obviously the road to ADC or the road to all these different things now. Yeah,
they're doing some great. I really like a lot of the Who's Number One events. A lot of the stuff that Flow do is awesome. You know, I think they're helping the sport grow in a lot of ways. I feel they should definitely not be like they should be a little bit more lenient with like letting people like myself into some of these events and giving myself a little bit of leeway and other videographers because they're very strict with who films what, you know.
Yeah, they're protective of content. That's a big thing, I know.
Yeah.
The copyright, things like that. I think they're very, because I've even seen like, hey, you can't even film your own matches.
No,
things getting as extreme as that. Like if you're going to like an IBJJF or you're like, hey, like I need to film like my purple belt open. No, can't. Like they'll put the camera away.
Yeah.
So it has been that strict, but I'd like to see like, you know, like videographers such as yourself being able to.
Yeah, I'm hoping to compete in the next one. We'll see. It depends if I win the trials. If not, I would love to go back and film the next ADCC, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen because there were some issues with the last one, but I won't get into that.
Yeah, fair enough.
It got very. It was a headache. It got very complicated, and it shouldn't have been so simple.
Off the air. Now that we're not recording.
So Stuart, obviously you have the FLA happening January 22nd. What's kind of like the next steps for you, especially after that? What's anything down the pipeline that you're looking forward to?
I want to continue to compete. You know, I'd really like to get on some of the fight to wins in America, get some of the bigger shows in America. I'm going to continue to compete as much as possible. The Grapple Fests in UK, that's like a good, it's a good reason for me to go back to UK as well, competing on the Grapple Fest show because they get some big names on that card. I'm like continue to grow my school. You know, we're going to hopefully have like Stuart Cooper Jiu-Jitsu's all around Vancouver, you know, like not just at one location. We're going to have like a bunch, build all my students up to like black belt. I want to continue to make my films as well. I've not been able to put out too much content, a combination of not being able to travel and film new stuff, but also just because for years I was just traveling and just focusing on filming. and making videos, and that took me away from the jiu-jitsu. But
Yeah.
what I actually prefer more than anything is teaching and training. That's actually my favorite thing to do. So when I'm really focusing on my own training and there's tournaments coming up, I just don't have time to do video stuff. But I'm definitely not going to let it drop. You know, I've built up a really good YouTube channel there, and people really like the content I put out there. So I'm going to always continue to do it. And I think I'll just stick to, you know, I'm not like, you know, I'll never be, it's never my intention to be some big media company like Fanatics or Flow Grappling. My videos are just, you know, like, I suppose they're like quite like artistic, little short film kind of things. You know?
Yeah, which is kind of like that old school.
That's kind of
like,
my niche.
Going back to like the Ryan Hall seminar, which is probably like the first one I watched, I think, of what you were filming, which I thought was awesome at the time. And I think you were honestly ahead of your time when it came to a lot of the content that you were putting out. Thanks.
Yeah, one thing I am working on, I think this would be really cool, but I need permission to film ADCC 2022, is I've got the footage of Galvao all the way back to 2009 when he lost to Braulio by reverse triangle. But that flipped a switch in his head. He comes back in 2011 like a man possessed. So I have all of his matches all the way up to 2019. So it's like I can make a really great feature documentary here on Galvao. And it would be cool, win or lose. I think him going up against Gordon Ryan, it would be a great ending, you know, because even if he loses, he's losing against Gordon, he's passing on the torch, he's stepped up. Yeah, he's a legend, you know. I think it would make a cool documentary.
I think that'd be a really cool, like awesome. Decade long.
Yeah.
Start a petition, get Stuart Cooper into ADCC 2022.
I might have to do that.
Win the trials, put a camera on your head as you're competing.
Yeah,
like,
GoPro.
GoPro, just do something. I got one more question. You know, since you moved to Vancouver, you moved there in 2019. I know Vancouver has been well documented for I think your gym may actually be around, like, because you're in Chinatown, I think you said, like, south of there's a notorious strip of Vancouver known as East Hastings.
Oh my God.
Tell the viewers about East Hastings. And then I have a second part, which is would you rather, you know, stay downtown in East Hastings for 24 hours at night, or go to Stanley Park where there's a new coyote nest?
I would go Stanley Park for sure. I'd kick the shit out of those little coyotes. But no, East Hastings, I've never seen anything like it. It's strange. I've been all around the world. I've been to like some bad parts of Brazil, you know, like the Cidade de Deus, if I pronounce that correct, is the city of God. It's one of the most dangerous favelas in the world. And you see, you know, poverty, you see people like, you know, like living in shanty towns. The same in Thailand. I've seen people living, you know, in Vietnam. I've seen some, you know, dark stuff, but I've never, ever seen anything like East Hastings. It's because in like Brazil and Thailand, people are poor, but they're still human. Like these people on East Hastings, they're so drugged up. It's like several blocks and the whole road is just full of tents and people just hunched over. I don't even know how they keep the balance. And you look at the faces and there's no soul left in them. There's no help for these people. I'm not sure what help there is. You know, we need to have some mental hospitals and some shelters, and there needs to be more help for these people, but there just isn't any, you know, or not enough, in my opinion. You know, the Vancouver government will go and spend $2 million in some chandelier underneath Burrard Bridge. But no, that $2 million could have gone to something good. I think it's fentanyl that a lot of them are hooked on. And it's hard coming back for a lot. I know a lot of them have mental health issues. A lot of them are like schizophrenic, and opiates kind of do actually mitigate the symptoms. But when those opiates wear off, there's this like rebound, you know, symptoms and rebound anxiety and stress. And it's just getting worse as well. It's getting really bad. During COVID, it seems to have grown. And it's scary because we didn't really have this problem. I know parts of Scotland have this problem with diazepam. There's a lot of like people out on the streets and just the mental health problems. And it's these pharmaceutical drugs, you know, like heavy benzodiazepams and opiates. Like, I think it's gonna be scary to see if this continues to grow, you know. Yeah, it's not a good thing.
No,
it's just
no,
the level. Well, you don't know, like, when I think when people are making these drugs, I don't think they realize how powerful potentially.
Yeah.
If they're in the wrong hands, they can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and the thing is, there are solutions to get people off opiates as well, but a lot of them, you know, you can say conspiracy, but I think it's just like business, you know, like there's a psychedelic called iboga or ibogaine, and
Yep.
this has a 95% success rate of getting people off opiates. And the hardest thing about getting off opiates is the withdrawal symptoms. They last so long and they're awful. Because I've been through them. I've been through opiate withdrawals. It's fucking awful. You just want to, like, after a couple of weeks, you just want to give in, you know, but they last so long. I've actually done ibogaine as well, and you have zero withdrawal symptoms. It resets the opiate receptors in your brain. And not only does it like clean out your opiate receptors and get you off opiates, but it's because it's a psychedelic, it gets to the root cause of what was actually why you got hooked on the drugs in the first place. It brings that trauma to the surface. But these things are illegal to do, which is beyond me. I don't understand why it's something that saves lives, gets people off opiates, can be illegal, you know? And there's a lot of data there. There's a lot of studies that show this stuff works. Like rehab has a 95% like relapse rate. People go in rehab, they come out, it's relapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there needs to be more of an understanding with like addiction and mental health.
Definitely agree with that. Or are we dropping a ayahuasca, iboga bomb on East
Yeah, I actually
Hastings?
made that joke all the time. They should drop a freaking iboga bomb on these tastings.
I mean, they've tried everything else at this rate. I mean,
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because I actually know there's a friend of mine who's a teacher out there, and his soon-to-be wife was working in that area, and it's just you're pretty much just her job was basically she was working across the street from Oppenheimer Park, and where you see like somebody just wander in, shoot up heroin, just make sure that like, okay, is this person gonna, okay, so how do we get this person off heroin? Just make sure they don't die. Like that's basically your job.
And people have become very jaded to it here. When I first got here, I wasn't used to it. I'd see someone lying in the middle of the pavement, face down. I'm like, oh my God, is this guy alive? Like, shit, we need help. But like, I'm gonna be late for work, and I'm like, hey, is this guy okay? And then now I'm just like everybody else. You see someone lying in the middle of the street, face down, when it's like, it's cold, it's rain, they've got the pants hanging down, and they're just like, is he alive? Like, probably, but you just carry on walking. It's fucked up. It's really fucked up what's happening here.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, like, there's been so many studies as far as like psychedelics going. So I'm hoping, again, this is just me hoping that eventually down the road, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon, but again, time will tell. We'll see. Again, there's a new show called Dope Stick that's on Disney Channel, or it's like Star, but it's
on the Disney Channel.
No, it's Disney, but it's like it's on Star basically. Yeah, that's what it is. That's
the first channel I would think of.
But hold on, it basically talks about, it's all about how the Oxycontin basically kind of got into the market, and so obviously how it started, and then obviously how they started flooding it, and it's all about a pharmacist who basically kind of breaks down everything, and it's like actually Michael Keaton's in it, there's a couple other people, but it's a full out show all about the opioid curses. So
there's a really good documentary called Dosed as well, which you can find online. And that's about a girl who's an opiate addict based here in Vancouver, and it was all shot here in Vancouver, and you see all of East Hastings, and they try to get her on mushrooms at first, but mushrooms don't work they can work, but they won't help with withdrawals. They won't actually clean out the opiate receptors. And then they end up doing ibogaine and iboga with it and actually get her off the opiates. She was on like methadone and like coke, morphine, all kinds of stuff. Wow. It's a really interesting documentary.
Okay, I'll definitely take a look at that one.
Yeah, yeah, it's worth a watch.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you know what? End on a happy note more than anything. I definitely want to make sure that so you let us know if we can help you out with a petition for sure, and who we got to talk to, because we need to see that Andre Galval documentary, like that. If you have stuff from like 2011, that's got to come out. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, because I've got loads. I've made little videos of Galval over the years. I haven't put them out. I've got a lot of good content sitting on my computer, which I could put out, but I'm like, do I put out these little videos and space them out, or do I make one big one?
One big one, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
one big feature one. Yeah.
Time for the big one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've never made like a feature documentary, so that would be a challenge.
So if you were to do that, how would you put that like on YouTube, or you kind of like sell
I'd
it?
probably I'd probably try and I'd probably do like a digital download or something.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like on Vimeo or something, and just charge like, I don't know, $5 or something like that. Or
no, it's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you got 2 buyers right here. Hopefully we can make it happen.
Yeah. One thing about digital downloads, people can always pass it on to other people, but you're not going to stop that no matter what, are you? You just have to accept it.
I don't think you can stop any of that stuff nowadays.
No.
No, I remember listening to, I think it was a Rogan podcast, but like Cocaine Cowboys, the documentary.
Yeah.
So the original was a bootleg, and that's how it went viral. And then that's how he started actually funding anything he was doing, because the original one, that somebody stole it, and he was like, they just put it out on the black market. It was all bootleg, and that's basically what funded everything moving forward for all their other documentaries that they've done.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I need to do something like that.
Sometimes that's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, Stuart, it's been an awesome chat today. I do appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to seeing you, especially in Nova Scotia, January 22nd. So that is going to be on the FLA card. Anything else to say before we shine off today?
No. Just if people are anyone's passing through Vancouver, make sure to come to Diaz Combat Sports. We've got it's like 3 floors now. We've got like weight training, strength conditioning, got kickboxing, MMA, wrestling, the jiu-jitsu with myself. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Maybe I may be vacationing out there next year, so I'll check you out for sure.
Yeah, if everyone's thinking of coming out to Vancouver, come in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
So honestly, Vancouver I've been to so many countries. Vancouver in the summer is my favorite. It's my favorite place to be. In the winter, oh my god, I want to get out of here.
Just wet.
It's like rainy. Wet and miserable. Rainy old London.
Yeah, no, it's worse. It's more rain in Vancouver than there is in England, I think.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think so. But England, I've noticed that the weather in England is harsher.
Yeah,
it gets colder. Vancouver is actually, it doesn't get that cold.
Yeah, it's more mild. Like
it's more mild,
like
but just rain.
Like 10 degrees, but then yeah.
All right.
That's okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah.